I have a joke for you, Adeline.
Oh, is it twisted and skewed humor?
Knock knock.
Yeah, you had to look at that? You looked at it?
Oh wait, I shouldn't have started with knock knock. I got my jokes confused. Hold on. What do you get when you cross an underdeveloped podcast premise with two white people who are not as smart as they think they are?
I don't know.
You get what you fucking deserve! It's this podcast that you're about to listen to. Yeah, and then you get blasted with bad podcast.
It's like that scene in Back to the Future where he puts the headphones on his dad. It's like that. But it's on live television and the world will never be the same. I know that was a big goof, but can we just talk about how raw that line is? Just like,
God, that's maybe my least favorite part of the whole movie is when he says that.
Oh, I thought that was dope as hell. Are you serious?
Oh wait, when he says when you cross a mentally ill loner with a
society that abandons him, and he says you get what you fucking deserve, and then he shoots him in the face on live television. That's great. What are you talking about?
I just don't like that it's like so blunt, you know?
But I don't know. That's what I like about it. I really think that's why, I mean, we're here at like the edge of his whole sanity. And for him to just be really fucking blunt about it, I think is like totally on the nose.
Right. So you sound like you're into this movie.
I'm very into this movie. I thought that I wouldn't be, but I'm very into it.
Right. See, I
think I will be less into it if I watch it again. It's like
that's kind of my experience.
Yeah, it's like Infinity War. Like, not Infinity War. What's the second one?
Endgame?
Endgame. It's like Endgame. The first time you're like super into it because it's all new information, but then the second time you watch it, then you're just waiting for the good parts to happen, and then you realize that the good parts are like an hour into the movie, and you're like, oh, whoops.
Yeah, because I think it's fair to say that both of us sort of went into this movie the first time we saw it kind of expecting not to like it, you know?
I didn't expect not to like it. I expected it to go too far and to make me uncomfortable.
Right.
And I was very surprised that it didn't go that far. And there were the only times that I was like really uncomfortable were times when it was cool that I was uncomfortable. Like, I wasn't uncomfortable because there was a sex scene or because of a gory scene. I was uncomfortable just looking at the Joker because of how unhealthy he was. Like, that was cool. That's when I wanted to be uncomfortable, you know?
Right. So, yeah, because the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, everybody hates this, and they think it's really... I mean, obviously not everybody hates this, because it won fucking 2 Golden Globes.
Yeah, everyone hates this.
But, like, I don't know, it's one of those weird things where it's like, oh, yeah, like, the general cultural consensus is, like, pro-Joker, but, like, anybody you talk to in your real life is like, I didn't really like it, I thought it was kind of bad. So it's like, what really even is anything, you know?
Did we all watch the same movie?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is this Clue again?
But yeah, but like, you know, especially in like the film critics that I follow, there was like an overwhelmingly negative response to this movie, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, I'm still going to see it. I especially was going to see it because I wrote a review of it for my school newspaper, which I may or may not link to in this description because it's probably my favorite thing I've written in a really long time, and I'm very proud of this review. But I was sort of expecting to be like, oh, this movie's going to suck and I'm going to hate it.
But I'm going to have to deal with people talking about the Joker for the rest of my life.
Right. But yeah, but then I was really impressed when I actually saw it. The thing about it is that, like, just on a moment-to-moment dramatic basis, it's incredible, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's gorgeous and suspenseful, and you're really, like, there with the character, and you kind of get where he's at, and you're, like, seeing everything happen, and you're, like, fully invested in it, you know? Just in terms of, like, this guy and what's gonna happen. Like, what's he gonna do?
Yeah. I think the best example of that is that first time that we see him, like, I think it's after he gets beaten up. He's, like, getting home from work, and we see his commute home through just, like, the total trash of Gotham, and you just see all the shit he has to put up to, and then you get to that shot where he's at the bottom of those huge staircase, and it's just him looking up at that staircase, and I was like, oh, dog, this guy is so emotionally done, and now he has to walk up that staircase. Like, it's such a good shot.
Right. But yeah, but my follow-up to that was that if you like think about this movie and like how it relates to reality or like what they're trying to say or what it's trying to get across, I have just always been disappointed when I try to examine it any further than like, oh, it's really cool and I'm enjoying what I'm seeing right now, you know?
And I mean, I think that gets into the conversation of like what does a movie have to do to be a good movie? Like, right. I feel like sometimes when we're talking about movies, like, in order to be a good movie, it has to be, like, a work of art, and it has to have a strong message. And sometimes good movies do have those things, but I also think sometimes good movies are just enjoyable. And I feel like there's kind of, like, a ranking system that's associated with movies, and, like, when you could talk about, like, how good they are. It's like, when you talk about your favorite movies, you could be like, oh, I like The Godfather, and I also like, I don't know, 151st Dates. And it's like, it's, the first thing to be like, well, The Godfather's a good movie, and 100 whatever is a bad movie, just because The Godfather is The Godfather, and it had this huge presence in the world, and was about guns and whatever. And then that was a stupid comedy, so who gives a shit? But it's like, sometimes a good movie just has to be enjoyable, and it has to make cool decisions. Like, I think, I was just talking to my friends about Batman movies, because I just told them that I watched The Joker, and my friend was like, the Batman movies are really good, except for Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. I was like, no, those movies are great, because they make such strong decisions, and are so stylized, and are so colorful, and are so ridiculous, and so stupid. That's why those films are so good. Like, it's like, it's a bad movie just because it's, like, not on the same level or something. I think that's stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look... But the thing about this movie particularly, though, is that it's trying to be very, very deep.
That's also true.
My favorite, the headline on Glenn Weldon's review of this movie was, the Joker has nothing to say, and it says it very, very loudly, which I think is perfect. Because, like, okay, so my biggest beef with this movie is basically just how inactive the protagonist is for almost all of it, right? Like, up until the third act.
Absolutely.
He's just a victim of everything, and most of the movie is just you watching bad things happen to this guy, right? Mm-hmm. And Joaquin is so good in it, and he's just... And he makes you feel it and believe it and really empathize with this guy who's just had to put up with so much garbage his whole life and just never can catch a break. Mm-hmm. But it's still frustrating because it's just like, what is this? And there's so much tied up in the fact that it's the Joker also, who's like notoriously bad guy and serial killer, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's like the decision to make him a guy who seems to just sort of become the Joker through unfortunate circumstances and no real fault of his own, you know? It's like, I don't know how I feel about that. Like,
I was listening to I don't know what it was. I think it was on NPR, but I was just in the car and I heard it out of the corner of my ear, so... But it was the director of this movie, and he was talking about how the premise was trying to tell the story of the Joker in the most realistic setting that they could make while still letting it be the Joker. And I think that's part of it. I think another part of it is that when you sign up to make this grisly serial killer the protagonist, and you have to explain why he does what he does, we kind of talked about this already. Like, there is a little bit of a pressure to, like, completely understand what he's doing and why he's doing it, but without completely sympathizing, because he's doing terrible things. But, like, I think what I like about this movie, what you said that you didn't like is kind of what I liked. I liked that all of the movie was just, like, the worst shit happening to him just all the time. And, like, it's just how it just all piles up. It's every fucking day, and it all piles up. And you already know that he's got mental health problems, so, like, it's already a fuse burning. And you already know he's the Joker, because the movie's called Joker, and you live in the world, and you know it's the Joker.
And like you live in a society.
And you live in a society, so you can see the fuse burning already, and you're just waiting for the bomb to go off. So I just love... I'm sure I won't love it as much the second time I watch it, but the first time watching it, just, like, having that, like, knowing that bomb is coming, and just watching all this shit happen to him, you're like, all of this terrible, terrible shit. Like, what is it that's gonna turn him into the Joker? Because, like, any of these things so far could have done it. So it's kind of just, like,
Right.
waiting for what sets the bomb off, you know?
Right. Here's what I have to say. One of the big discussion points around this movie are the fact that it is so like derivative of Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, specifically these two Scorsese movies. You haven't seen either, have you?
I have not seen either of these films.
Okay, so believe me when I say that, like, literally, like, if you just took those two movies and, like, smushed them together, like, this is exactly what you would get. So, Taxi Driver is about this guy who's just this, like, angry, presumably, like, just downtrodden guy who's just this, like, horrible, angry person who he drives a taxi. Mm-hmm. And he falls in love with this woman who's running a presidential campaign. And this is, I'm just going to explain the plot of Taxi Driver.
That's fine.
So spoiler alert for Taxi Driver, which came out 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And he's this guy and he's racist. And he's always talking about how he hates sex workers and how black people are ruining New York and all this kind of stuff. And you're like, oh, fuck, who is this guy? And he falls in love with this woman who's on a presidential campaign. And she rejects him. And she says, I don't want to be with you. I don't want any part of you and your whole thing. And so then afterwards, because he's just outraged, he decides he's going to try to assassinate the presidential campaign that she was working for, just to kind of, like, get back at her. But then he tries to do that, and he gets foiled. It doesn't work. He doesn't get caught, but he gets, like, turned away, and, you know, they foil his assassination attempt.
Isn't able to assassinate the president.
Right. And so he just still has this gun, and there's sort of a B-plot where he's, like, sort of forged this relationship with this, like, 13-year-old prostitute, because it's, like, 70s New York, and it's really gritty, and everything's horrible. And so he just takes the gun, and he just, like, goes into this brothel full of, like, young girls, and he just, like, shoots up all the adults who, like, are working there and doing it, just, like, obliterates these horrible people. And then the end of the movie is, like, all these people, like, on the news and covering it, like, oh, local hero stops child sex ring, and, like, this wonderful, incredible guy did this great good deed for the people of New York, you know? But you just saw this entire movie of him being a piece of shit. And you're like, oh, this isn't good. This is no good at all. And then, like, the credits roll, and that's the end of the movie. And you're like, fuck, that was no good.
Yeah. Well, but didn't like it.
Yeah. And then King of Comedy is about this guy who's, like, this socially inept person who wants to be a stand-up comedian. And he like, idolizes this stand-up or this talk show host on TV. And he's constantly getting all on his business. And it's about him just being super, like, delusional and, like, thinking he has a relationship with this talk show host, even though they don't know each other, just because he, like, met him and shook his hand this one time. And he's constantly like, oh, it's me. I don't remember the guy's name. It's me, Travis. Don't you remember? It's me. We met and, you know, we're friends. We're good friends. But he just he has no idea.
Yeah.
And so what happens at the end there is that he kidnaps him, like, holds him hostage in his house, and then goes on TV during his show, which they've gotten, like, their substitute that, you know, what happens sometimes. His, like, secondhand guy is coming up, and it's like, oh, and we've booked this guy. The host said we should do it. And they literally have the exact same line in The Joker where he's like, oh, and hey, before I go on, could you introduce me as the title of this film? So that's, like, straight out of there.
Okay. I mean,
and so anyway, he goes on and he does this set about how he's like, oh, and I kidnapped the talk show host. He's tied up in my basement right now. And the audience is just, like, laughing because they don't understand that he's telling the truth. But anyway, then he goes to jail at the end. But then once he gets out of jail, like 10 years later or whatever, he becomes a successful comedian because everybody knows who he is already.
And this is just a movie about the power of name recognition and nothing else.
Pretty much, yeah. And because that's, like, sort of the thematic idea of the movie is the way people interact with celebrity, you know. Yeah. Anyway, but I am explaining all this to you so I can make the point I was trying to say, which is that Taxi Driver, which is this movie about this guy who's doing these horrible things, you see him become evil. He was already kind of evil, but, like, do these evil things because you see him make evil decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's not especially oppressed. I mean, he is a little bit because he's just like a socially inept person. Yeah. But you see him make awful decisions really deliberately, right? As opposed to something like this where he's just sort of being so reactionary to everything. He's not like planning things out and making decisions a lot of the time. He's just reacting to all these horrible things that happen to him. It's a little bit less explicit about his morality, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see him really be evil. You see him lash out because he's frustrated, you know.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a strong difference between those two ideas.
Yeah, and I think this is a very popular theme, and I think a lot of movies do it. And we talked about it during Halloween. It's the idea that anybody could be the Joker, and I feel like this movie wants to make that point more than it wants to make a point about the Joker, you know? Like, this movie is basically trying to say something about society at large through the lens of the Joker, but I think because of that, the Joker is a little bit lost because they're trying to say something about society. So yeah, it's not the Joker making these evil decisions, so like, I'm gonna steal a bank and burn all the money. It's just the Joker being like, I am being attacked by 3 men and I don't want to die, so I'm going to shoot them on the subway. It's like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's that saying that's like, there are people in our society with mental illness that feel totally abandoned or just pushed down every single day of their life, and like that anybody could be the Joker kind of theme, like, is more important than the actual character of the Joker, you know?
Right. And I think you're correct, but I think where this movie goes wrong is that it's so broad about everything, right?
Also true.
It's just like the message of this movie just seems to be like, maybe if we fixed all our problems in the world,
everything would be cool.
Maybe bad things wouldn't happen as often. And you're like, oh fuck, you're so right, Todd.
It's easy to criticize this movie. It's like it should have just chosen like one thing that's wrong in society and like focused on that. But it's true of the real world. If you follow one problem in society and you follow it all the way back, all of the problems kind of lead to the same causes. So I get how they got lost in the sauce, because we're lost in the sauce in reality. Like, if they just wanted to focus on how mentally ill people are treated, like how they don't get enough help, it's like, well, you get to like the Social Security and like that, and like benefits and like welfare and how that gets cut. Oh, why does that get cut? It's because rich people are in charge of the government. It's just like, I can totally see how like all of these issues they wanted to talk about just got like snowballed into one big problem. Right. Because I think that is true of reality also.
And it's sort of like, my other thing that I think would have really fixed this movie a lot in my mind is if they were just specific about what the like clown people were protesting about, right?
Very true.
Because they're just like, things are bad and there are rich people.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, why did you start rioting though? Like, what was the inciting incident for this?
2 things. One thing, I feel like I was surprised that this movie took place in Gotham. Because to me, Gotham is just such a cartoony fantasy land already. Right. And they do a very good job of making it seem real, but they also do a very bad job. Like, they do a real job in, like, setting and set design and, like, what it looks like and the people in it and stuff. It does get too much sometimes. Like, it gets too much like New York in the 70s, where it's just like, oh, there's garbage everywhere and there's super rats, and it's just like, okay,
exactly, yeah. It's so like comically, like ridiculously horrible there.
And it's like the point that it's comically ridiculous, but you can't do that when you're trying to build the most realistic setting possible. Like, it's just a throwaway line that they make jokes about, that there are super rats in Gotham. It's like, what the fuck are we talking about? And then, secondary, I love that first scene when he's in that crowd of people protesting the benefit, where they're just protesters. You see men and women, you see them all of like different ages with like signs and the clown makeup, and he's become like this rallying point of like there's something really wrong in our society and we're protesting it, or the specifics are, it doesn't matter, but like there's something wrong and we're using this to rally behind it. And there's this moment of him like kind of having like some pride of like, oh, I made some change in the world. And then comparing that to the ending where it's like the riots, I really like him being more happy in the riots and taking more pride in the riots, because that makes sense, because it's the Joker and he just wants chaos. But I don't understand why everybody else is suddenly rioting, you know?
Uh-huh. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm being very hostile on my end right now, just towards this movie. When like I said at the beginning, I do like it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But my final big point that I think would make the movie a lot better, his final speech, I think, when he's at the talk show host and he's talking and, he's asking him these questions and he keeps saying like, oh, but, here's my whole deal. Here's what's been bugging me.
Yeah.
I feel like is kind of incongruous to the rest of the movie, right? Because he's had the things that he says specifically, because he's had no political agenda the entire film, right? He's just been looking out for himself and doing what's important to him on a moment by moment basis, And it's really implied that like the big riots, he doesn't fully understand the whole thing. And the interactions he's had with like rich people have been about personal issues that are important to him specifically. He doesn't care about society, really, aside from the way that he interacts with it specifically, And like the entire movie, it's really specific about the fact that he's not trying to do something in the world. He's just trying to look out for himself. So when he gets up there and he suddenly is sort of sympathizing with the protesters and using their rhetoric and like taking their side and talking about them, it's like it seems like there's this weird missing step, because you've never seen him do that or feel that way before. Does that make sense?
Yeah. He doesn't really use their rhetoric though, because they make such a point of like, he's like, oh, you didn't dress up like this to be political. And he's like, no, this is just because the whole thing is to him, it's become political, but like even the whole clown thing was never political to him in the first place. Like he was dressed up as a clown because it was his job. So now he's dressed up as a clown again. And are they like, is this political? And he's like, no, I just wanted to dress up like a clown.
Right.
He doesn't, and it's because I think the protesters are so like kind of like non-specific that like he doesn't really use any of their rhetoric. He's just kind of like, just like spills his guts because his plan is to kill himself on live TV.
Right.
So he's just like, here's what's fucking bothering me, and now I'm gonna shoot myself in the face, but instead I'm gonna shoot you. Like, I don't know. I don't think I agree with you. I
think that what I've seen of his character, I would have liked him to say, I hate everybody. Everybody has been mean to me. Without exception, everybody in my life on both sides of this whole thing have been nothing but unkind to me. So, like, fuck all y'all. I love chaos. And then shoot him. I would have been cool with that. He gives such a, like, specific... He says, like, oh, the rich people of Gotham are running the city, and because of that, everybody like me at the bottom is getting downtrodden. And you're like, I don't think this character thinks that way, you know?
I think he is putting things together that he's never put together before.
Like in that moment.
In that moment, and I think a little bit before that moment too, just like that's a spiral at the very end. I think he is starting to put together things. I think after he has his confrontation with Thomas Wayne, I think that's when he really starts to like put things together, because he has that line where he's like, I just want some common fucking decency, like that kind of thing. I think that's when he starts to like put things together. And what I like about this Joker, and what kind of messes up the Joker a little bit, is that he isn't like, I hate everybody, it's chaos party time now. It's because even if it's through a skewed lens, there are people that he likes.
Right.
Like, I mean, the best example is the girl who lives down the hall. And then there's also, like, the child on the bus, and then there's his midget clown friend, whose name I cannot remember.
Right.
And he has people that he like so, like, he makes a point of not killing his clown friend, because he's like, you're the only one that was fucking nice to me. Skedaddle, get out of here, get out of here, you crazy son of a gun. Like, he makes such a point, and I think I like that better than just everyone's been mean to me, so now I just want chaos. Like, it's kind of like there are good people in the world, but we live in such a fucked up area that it doesn't even matter. Like, it doesn't matter that that guy was nice to me, because I still got the shit beat out of me on the subway, like that kind of thing.
But yeah, and so I feel like, and this movie is a little bit tough because the discussion around it has to revolve so much around what it's about and what it's saying, just because that is the lens through which it views itself. That's sort of the just in terms of the world we live in, but also the way that the movie sees itself and what it's saying. Like, it invites you to really engage with it, and when you do really engage with it, at least for me, you kind of come up short. I think that it is, and because a lot of it is you try to figure out, like, politically what its message is at heart, right? Because on the one hand, you've got, like, these rich, sort of urban aristocrats who are, like, controlling everything and putting everybody down, and obviously the movie doesn't like them. But you've also got these violent protesters who are starting these riots and who are, like, being violent and causing chaos in the city. And the movie doesn't really seem to like them very much either. Yeah. And the Joker sort of ends up siding with the riots at the end. But it is only at the very end of his journey when he's become fully evil, kind of, So my big line in my review that I was very proud of was I wrote that the movie isn't seeming to say that there are good people on both sides, more that there are bad ones. Like, it has a very misanthropic view of the politics and the culture of America at large right now. It seems like it doesn't like pretty much everybody pretty equally.
Yeah. I think this movie ends up being not the guy in your psychology class that won't shut the fuck up, but the kid next to the guy in your psychology class who won't shut the fuck up. It's not screaming about political correctness and how the liberals are all idiots. It just has a very basic understanding of what the issues of now are, and has, like, looked at the world and kind of formulated this opinion and put it together, and has just got, like, they've got the basics. Right. But I expect this movie to have more than the basics,
Right. But yeah, I don't know, it's just like, the message is just kind of, I don't know, to me it just feels like, oh, there are rich people and they're bringing everybody down, that's what's wrong with the world. And they're like, yeah, that's bad. That's no good.
Yeah.
And there are also these people who are starting riots in the streets and doing damage and setting off bombs and stuff on the opposite side. And you're like, oh, wow, that sucks too. Yeah, I don't like that either.
Yeah.
And then roll credits.
Okay, we talked about this in my psychology class, where you can't... This was the argument for teaching children about psychology in the first place. It was that you can't just have one psychology class, because then you are introduced to all these questions and problems that don't really have answers, and you don't know what to do with yourself, and if you don't have the proper tools to deal with it, it can be really detrimental to some people. And I think that's what this movie is, like, one psychology class where you figured out what the problems are, you see the problems, but you either don't understand or don't know the tools to fix them, because they're hard questions and with hard answers, and a lot of them don't even have answers. So it's kind of, this movie is posing the problem to you, and it just and it's kind of like, now you figure it out.
Yeah,
asshole.
Posing a very vague, very broad set of problems to you.
Yeah. It's just like one psychology class. It's like, here are all the problems. They're all so convoluted and crazy, and there's no way that we could solve them with a simple answer. So we're not even gonna try. Good night.
Right, yeah. if we want to really get into it scene by scene like we usually do, like it's the typical format of this show. This is gonna be a weird episode. I feel like I feel like our tone is very different than it usually is on this one.
Well, it's hard to make goofs about this movie because it's very sad. Like
it's just a bummer of a movie.
It's not sad in content. It's sad in like the idea of it. Like, even if every single moment isn't sad, it's still about this, like, mentally abused man whose life is falling apart, so it just feels weird to be like, hey, goof, penis baloney. Like, it just doesn't, it doesn't fit.
But, I think there is a mastery of tone in this movie.
Oh, absolutely.
The movie feels so well put together and so self-assured in ripping off Martin Scorsese that it is... like, but it does it very well, and it feels consistent, and it feels immersive, and I'm trying to think of a good way to phrase this. It's got a consistency of tone that's really, really satisfying, and it's you never feel any sense of whiplash or any sort of incongruity.
Nope.
Incongruity with what you expect to happen and what actually is thrown at you. You're never taken out of the film for any reason because it's just fully immersive, you know. And I think the 70s Warner logo at the beginning, which is so cool, is like a great tone setter because it immediately conjures the image of those Scorsese movies that you know already that feel very much like this, you know. And it's sort of in a really creative way, like immediately ingratiates you into what you're about to see, you know?
Yeah. This movie, like, captures the 70s in a really interesting way because it captures of course we're in a fictitious setting, but it, like, captures the 70s as, like, this time where everything's really fucked up, so everyone is desperately trying to, like, be nostalgic about the past, just, like, in every way. Because, like, we're in the 70s, but, like, every time the Joker is, like, watching TV when it's not the Murray Show, it's some, like, super old film. When he's listening to music, it's old music. Like, I feel like it, like, perfectly, like, captures the nostalgia of a people in crisis, like, super well.
Right.
God, this is just me pulling things out of the movie that I really liked, but it's just, like, he's such a good actor. Every time the Joker, like, has that uncontrollable laugh, and he's, like, choking and trying to keep it back, is so good. They do such a good job of using it, too. Like, using it in a real way that a real person would have to deal with in, like, uncomfortable situations. Like, when he's on the bus, and he just can't stop fucking laughing, and you can tell he is so embarrassed, or when he gets up on stage and it just, like, ruins his act. And I love that scene when he's on the fucking subway, and those guys are harassing that girl, because you can see that girl kind of, like, look to him for help, and he can't stop fucking laughing, and it's it's so good.
No, yeah, and it's a really interesting way, because they've chosen to take, like, the most iconic aspect of the Joker, which is that he has this cool laugh, and they chose to make it sort of a mechanic of the plot in a certain kind of way, right?
Yeah.
Like, there are a lot of things that wouldn't happen the same way in this movie if it weren't for his Joker laugh, you know? And it's a really interesting way to play it, because it's not just an aesthetic choice. Because, you know, leading up to it, there was so much hype about, oh, what's Joaquin's laugh going to sound like? And they said, like, oh, and he looked at people who have real neurological conditions that make them laugh to get it. And everyone was like, oh, that sounds like it's going to be really scary. But it's like, it's not just an aesthetic choice. It's like, it's an element of the plot and the story. You know?
He's not playing a character with a creepy laugh. He is playing a character that has a disorder that forces them to laugh. Yeah. It's like two completely different ideas.
Right. Early in the movie, I think the opening shot is great about how he's listening to the news, and it's just like, oh, everything's bad. There's super rats.
Ignore that we said that.
Yeah. I also just think it's a little convenient that the big crises they mention are things that couldn't have anything less to do with current events. Like, they just made something up to be as, like, I don't know, sort of inoffensive a crisis as possible in the 21st century.
Well, but they have like, what was it? Was the trash workers were on strike, so now the garbage is being picked up. I was like, I don't know, that hasn't happened, but like that feels like talking about like workers' rights and stuff like that. Like that feels relevant. Right. And they were like, also, there's fucking super rats. It's like, yes, a problem we can all relate to. The super rats plaguing America.
But it's like he's just listening to the radio being like, oh, everything's bad. It's bad times here in the city. And he's like, got his fingers in his mouth, like pulling his mouth up into the smile. And it's just like, it really do be like that sometimes. Yeah. That.
I love that chat so much. Because one is, it do be like that sometimes. And I also, like when, no matter what you're trying to do, like, the idea was to make a Joker movie that wasn't a DC superhero movie, to, like, just make a movie about the Joker. And even if you're doing that, you can't produce this movie in a vacuum. Like, we all know going in that it's the Joker. So, like, to just start with that shot of him just, like, forcing himself into the smile is, like, oh, we about to go. Like, we just jump right into it. It's very good.
Okay. I hate his serial killer diary. I hate it. Yeah. That is my least favorite part of the movie.
I like it when it's in the meetings with the social worker lady.
Right.
And I like it as being, like, because watching a lot of media about comedians and stuff like that, this is a real thing that a lot of comedians have. They have, like, a joke journal. So it didn't seem like a serial killer thing. It just seemed like something that someone trying to be a stand-up comedian would have. And I do like what they do with it. I love it because it comes back later in the movie. But I love it during that first session where she pulls up that line and she's just like, I hope my death makes more sense than my life. And I love his rapport with this lady, first of all. Because it's this combination of, like, he genuinely wants help. He's genuinely in pain. He is struggling. And but he is also very aware that this lady, like, it's not that she doesn't care, it's that she doesn't always have the capacity to care. Like, if that makes any sense. Like,
No, I totally get you.
Like, everything fucking sucks. So sometimes she doesn't have the capacity to care about him. And so you have, like, those great lines where he's like, he is talking about his problems, and then he just goes, you never fucking listen to me. Because it's, even in that conversation, he's not like, angry at her, and she's not being mean to him. But he's just so fed up with this system that doesn't work. Even if it's not being malicious, it doesn't fucking work. Right. And he's tired of it, and she's also tired of it from the other side of the table.
Yeah, I mean...
good.
Yeah, I also want to say that the set piece of the stairs fucking kicks ass. It's so such a good location. And everybody's been making fun of, like, people taking over that staircase in Joker costumes and constantly taking pictures of themselves and, like, blocking foot traffic in New York on that staircase. But still, that's the coolest fucking staircase in the world, though. Yeah.
I think it's so funny when they either use, like, a house or a location in a film, and then everyone that lives around that location is just so fucking pissed off. And it's like, well, guys, you let them film here.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a public space. If that's on your commute to work, it doesn't have anything to do with you.
Yeah. But what is it, like, the people who live in the Goonies house, like, fucking hate it when people come to take pictures in front of their house?
Yeah. No, same thing with the Breaking Bad house.
Oh, yeah.
That's only partially because people are assholes about the Breaking Bad house.
I mean, yeah, if we're going to talk about, like, bad fans, I think Breaking Bad is up there.
No, I don't think so. I don't know. The whole thing was that there's that gag in one of the episodes where he, like, gets frustrated and he, like, has this pizza and he throws it on the roof, and it's, like, kind of a plot point in one of the episodes.
Yeah.
So people have just been, like, throwing pizzas on the roof of the Breaking Bad house, and people are just like, fucking stop.
We live here. This is our house.
We can't just have 100 rotting pizzas above us all the time, assholes.
We live in a society. We live in a society.
Okay. But yeah, I don't know. What I was saying about the journal, though, was just that I don't like his, like, hyper-dense serial killer writing and his, like, outrageous misspellings of everything. I think you can make him have a creepy diary, but don't make it Kevin Spacey's diary from Seven, you know?
Yeah, I think they do go too far with it, where he's got, like, things, like, cut out and, like, pasted. They definitely go too far. Yeah,
he's got, like, naked women with, like, pin scratches all over him. It's like, okay, this is a red flag for anybody on the planet.
I really like how they use it, but I agree with you that, like, and it's just, like, in passing. Like, it's not even a thing that's, like, it's not a plot point. It doesn't need to be there. And they're just like, also, he's got this fucking insane journal, whatever.
Right. Also with the stairs rule. I was saying in our Conjuring episode how they found, like, America's best creepy tree. I think this movie found America's best staircase, because it rules. Especially those scenes where you're at the top of it and you can just see New York City just like out in front of you from the top of that staircase. It's like one of my favorite locations in a movie maybe ever, because it's just so visually appealing, you know. I really love that they introduce a gun into the movie that continues to be relevant throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, it's also the same gun.
Yeah, and feels genuinely dangerous whenever somebody is holding it or using it.
I love that scene in the children's hospital. So
yeah, that's my favorite. Like, I think that's my favorite scene in the movie is when he's dancing at the children's hospital and the gun falls out of his pant leg. It's like, oh, fuck. That's no good.
What I love about that scene is that he plays it off like it's like a clown would. Is a part of the act, and you can, like, hear, like, some of the kids, like, laughing at the end of the scene.
Right.
Like, he played it off so well that when we transitioned to the next scene, I thought he wasn't gonna get in trouble at all, and then he gets fired because of it. And I was like, oh, I thought, okay, like, you know.
Right. I don't know, I didn't really get that vibe, because you see the nurses, like, really react to it.
Can I just say that clowns get a bad rap because of it? And those people that dressed up like clowns and murdered people or whatever and stood in the forests to freak people out. But like when you get, like, clowns are only creepy when you have, like, a creepy clown. When you have a clown that's going out of its way to be scary. And then it's like, well, yeah, duh, of course, because it's a creepy clown. But like when you just have, like, a regular ass clown, I'm just like, they're nice. They're being nice and funny and y'all are being mean.
Right.
He's not scary. He's trying his best.
Yeah. I just made a note, it's kind of a joke to myself, but when he's visiting that comedy club and he's listening to that guy tell jokes and he writes down, like, sexy jokes are always funny or whatever. Like,
and then that never ever comes up ever again.
Well, yeah, it never comes up ever again, the first of all. But the thing that drove me fucking insane is that they cut away from that joke before you even hear the punchline.
Yeah.
Like, this movie's so committed to just being a bummer all the time, they won't even let me hear a good joke, maybe.
You don't get any jokes in any context.
You can get the first half of a joke.
And you're, like, looking at memes on your phone, it'll turn off the app that you're on.
Don't laugh. It's not funny.
Don't laugh. It's not funny. You laughing at this, you fuckhead?
And then later, when he goes to the comedy club again, they, like, purposefully give you a joke that's, like, fucked up enough that you just have to be like, oh, that's not funny. Like, oh, okay, fine. I thought maybe I could laugh at a good comedian's joke maybe once in this dang movie about comedians.
Nah, Jackson, it's the 70s. Everybody's fucked up.
Yeah.
There were no good people alive in the 70s.
Okay, speaking of comedians, though.
Yes.
You could make the argument that people's senses of humor have evolved a lot in the last 40 years.
Absolutely, yes.
I don't buy that Arthur's set wouldn't have killed if he had done exactly that in the real world.
Yeah.
Because people would assume it was a bit, because it's a comedy club.
Yeah.
And if you just went up there and you just couldn't fucking get over yourself over how hard you were just laughing, and then you said a super not funny joke every once in a while, I think that would destroy at a comedy club.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what I didn't get about it is that, like, even if it wasn't funny, it wasn't so not not funny to, like, play on national television.
Yeah, no,
like,
that's a little whack.
When like, the Joker, like, gets upset, I'm like, with the Joker. I'm like, this isn't even, like, funny from, like, a not funny perspective. It's just, like, y'all are just assholes. Like, what are we doing? And I get that that's a plot point, but, like, still.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, if this movie didn't exist and ruined this concept, you could totally do a stand-up set where you just get up and you, like, you just, like, laughing so much at your own jokes that you say something that's not really that funny, and then you just add in creepy serial killer stuff throughout.
Yeah, everyone would have thought it was a bit.
And you, like, flip open your journal and you see on the back page that there's, like, a cutout picture with the head cut off of a naked lady with pen scratchings all over it. That would be hysterical, and people would be way into it. I totally thought, in King of Comedy, they actually show you his whole set, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
Because there's some really well-written jokes in it where he is telling jokes with, like, pretty, traditional setups and punchlines and stuff that, like, wouldn't be super weird, but they do also simultaneously give you a real insight into the fact that this guy had, like, a really shitty childhood and, like, was abused and is messed up, Because he just is sort of, like, he thinks he's just doing his regular comedian thing and people will buy this and it'll be funny. But he just, like, kind of throws out things about how his mom used to hit him or, like, horrible things that he went through as a kid, just, like, as the setup to a joke that has a real punchline and is kind of funny. And you're like, oh, this is so weird.
Yeah.
And I totally forgot which movie it was. I thought they did that in this movie, but they do not. They just purposefully don't show you his comedy set.
Yeah, well, I like that when they just show you, like, him, like, doing comedy. I like that he, like, you get, like, he's just, like, not funny. Like, he doesn't know how to write a joke. Like, I like that. I thought they were gonna do that when he got on live television. I thought that's how he was gonna give himself away, was that he was gonna do comedy. And he does it a little bit, but not so much in, like, the construction of a real joke. He does it in kind of, like, he doesn't know how to build a joke, and he finds that hilarious because his life is so sad. He's like, I'm a comedian and I don't know how to build a fucking joke. This guy got hit by a car. Ha ha ha. Like,
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I really like the concept of the Joker just being, like, not being not funny, but not being a good comedian in any sense of the word.
He just doesn't have an understanding of how to do it.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't know how to be funny, and that's hilarious to him. Like, it's a very cool decision, and I like that they did that.
But yeah, and there are sort of sorry, I just totally derailed my own train of thought.
Gotcha. So anyway,
there are a couple of things that I think, I don't know. Basically, my main point of what I'm trying to say is that if you worked at a clown company and there is a guy who made all your other employees feel uncomfortable and he got fired for bringing a gun to a hospital, and then 2 weeks later in the news, there was a story about a guy in a clown outfit who killed 3 people with a gun, I would be like, oh, hey, yeah, let's call the police about this. Like, it just seems like such an obvious setup that I, like, almost don't even buy that nobody was suspicious until, 2/3 of the way through the movie, Well,
it's because the idea is, like, there was nobody to call the cops, so nobody called the cops at the time. They only start investigating it because it gets on the news and because of Thomas Wayne. But yeah, I do get when they're, like, questioning him at the hospital and they're like, hey, you heard anything about this? He's like, no, my mother's sick, bye. It's like, well, come on, guys.
Right. Well, and I think the line of thinking there is that there was a clown killer, so they investigate the clown company who has the clown outfits. Mm-hmm. And then that's when the guy says, oh yeah, we had this guy, he got arrested for having a gun and he made everybody uncomfortable. I don't know, why is that relevant though?
Yeah. No, what I thought the subtext was, is that this is a really shady clown company. Right. So that they didn't want when the police are like, yo, what's up? They're like, oh, I don't know. Anyway, bye. Like, like they don't, they're not going to sell it out. Even if it's very obvious that Arthur did it, they're not going to be like, one of our clowns did it, because there's some other shady stuff going on.
Right. No, that's fair. But yeah, like, Sorry, I'm just going through my notes.
Yeah.
For a while, I started writing down because I was getting frustrated with how little agency he has in this story. I started writing down all the decisions he makes. And I wrote down like 4.
Yeah.
Because he decides to like kill that guy in the subway, right? That's sort of it's a reactive decision, but it is a decision.
Yeah.
And then he decides to quit his job, and he decides to confront Thomas Wayne. And then outside of the third act, when he's really like, he makes his big decision, which is to shoot Murray, what's his name, and do all his crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Which really is still only one decision. He decides he's gonna kill himself and or shoot Murray. It's just like, totally in this movie, he makes like 5 decisions.
Yeah. No,
I
like still argue that that's a part of it, though.
Yeah. But I'm not saying that's not part of it. It definitely is. I don't like that about it.
Okay.
I don't like the narrative of this just like sad sack who is so downtrodden and miserable that he's just the victim in everything. And I think in its effect in the world, I think it just encourages people to see themselves as a victim, you know, and sort of gives a pass to people doing horrible things. If regardless of whether they really are, if they feel like the world has wronged them, you know, that's the whole incel argument about this whole thing is the like faux victimized guys on the internet who think they have it so horrible being upset at the world. And this movie seems to make no effort to do anything different than pretty much exactly that, right?
Yeah.
It's just about him being a victim and being downtrodden and having the worst life in the world, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the difference is that this isn't faux victimization. He is actually a victim of a lot of things.
Right.
But it doesn't matter, because we already had this conversation. It doesn't matter what it's supposed to be. It matters how it's interpreted. But that being said, I really liked how this movie handled his infatuation with his neighbor, because I mean, obviously he has a very unhealthy fantasy in his head about her, but it was never gross, and it was never violent.
Right.
The only thing, I mean, they totally fucking captured it perfectly of why I'm never nice to anybody on the bus, because like literally my greatest fear, and just like plays on repeat in my head, is that montage of the Joker following her around. Like, that's just they nailed it. It's the worst. But like, other than that, he doesn't ever really do anything because of that. Like, I feel like he's got this unhealthy fantasy about this woman, but it never blows up into something terrible like it does with incels. It never turns to violence.
Right.
You have that moment where he like goes into her apartment, but even in that scene, it's not, I guess it's not violent, and it doesn't seem, he doesn't think that she owes him anything, or at least it doesn't come off like that. Like, when he shows up in her apartment, it really just seems like he doesn't fucking know what to do, and he himself kind of realizes that the relationship is a fantasy that he has. And he's just like, he shows up in her house, and she's like, I know that you are mentally ill, but you are in the wrong house, and I need you to leave. Is there someone that I can call for you? Right. And then he leaves without doing anything terrible. So I think they really handled depicting that kind of unhealthy relationship very well, and in a way that didn't make me hate the Joker. Like, they just handled it super well.
And I feel like this movie does sort of engage with its cultural context in a meta way a little bit. I feel like the whole idea of him being the Joker and inadvertently becoming a figurehead for this huge political movement is not by mistake. I think that's definitely part of what this movie's kind of trying to maybe say about anything. And it's a little bit odd that happens with a more like left-leaning radical segment rather than the opposite, you know, which is what it is in reality. And it's sort of, I don't know, I think this movie is just sort of, I guess just sort of toothless. I don't know. I'm trying to collect my thoughts on it because, like, give me just a second.
Okay.
Let me come your words for a second.
We can't keep doing this.
We can do the same bit over and over again. Yeah, I don't know, because it picks such vague and such. It's either really specific in that it's something that doesn't apply today, or it's so vague that it could be anything whenever it's mentioning issues and problems. And the way that it engages with the sort of built-in criticism that always will have been in this movie is so sort of surface level and not really engaging with it in a meaningful way, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like it's afraid to actually be about something in particular because it knows that it'll dilute its audience if it is, you know?
Yeah.
That's sort of my biggest beef.
Yeah, I mean, and I understand both sides of that argument. Being that if they picked a really hard side with something, that's all that movie's ever gonna be. You know, it's not like, oh, you're gonna lose a lot of audience, like a lot, like it'll stop being a movie and it'll start being a political,
right, like,
action, you know? And sometimes that's just how it's gotta be. Sometimes it do be like that.
Right.
But I also I hate the just kind of I agree with you. The just like kind of not talking about everything but also talking about nothing just so we don't make the conservatives or the liberals or the whatever's mad.
Right.
Like there's something just so like cowardly about that really rubs me the wrong way.
And I think that the response to Last Jedi is really informative probably in the production of this movie, right? Mm-hmm. Because, you know, Last Jedi doesn't take a side, but it has a position. It has a stance. Yeah. And people just hated that about it. I mean, obviously not all people, but a certain sect of people just hated that.
The people who are wrong hated it.
Yeah. And that sort of just became the whole narrative of the movie, right? Mm-hmm. And I think they saw that and they realized that, like, we can't even try to do anything with this, you know?
Oh, especially because of the nerd culture.
Yeah, because it's in the same culture and also because it already has such a spotlight on it just inherently because of what it is, you know?
Yeah. It's because nerd culture it started with the white nerdy boys. And they felt so downtrodden and so hurt by reality for no other reason than being nerds. Uh-huh. And so they clung to things like the Joker and Star Wars and then wouldn't let anybody have it because it was their security blanket, and then didn't fucking realize that, hey, there are real problems in the world and you're not as downtrodden as you think you are. Right. And it just, you just have these flagpoles that nerd boys wave. And you can't even try to take it away from them because they are the real ones. They are the real ones being oppressed.
Yeah. No, my sort of grand unified theory about, like, toxic nerd culture is basically this. It's that people like these things that are sort of, or at least were, sort of non-popular in the public eye. Things that you could be made fun of for liking, right? So even if you don't have any compunction about having this thing and loving it, there is a certain amount of self-consciousness about the fact that you like Star Wars, whatever it is.
You like X, yeah.
Yeah. So then if somebody takes that thing that you like and they want to do something that's a little bit different than what has always been with it, the message you can take away is that there was something wrong with it originally and it needs to be different because it was bad before. Which is what you're terrified of people saying to you, right? When you love Star Wars and you're used to being made fun of for loving Star Wars, so when someone takes Star Wars and they make it a little bit different, it's kind of like they're making fun of Star Wars. It's like they're saying there's something bad about Star Wars and that you're bad for liking it, so we need to take it and make it good again, you know? And I think that is sort of the mindset that leads to people being so zealously defensive of things staying the way they are, because just because something can be different and might be better different doesn't necessarily mean that there's something wrong with you or that there is a problem with the thing originally.
Yeah. But sometimes there is a problem with the thing originally.
Well, yeah, I mean, even so. But even in times where there is, it's still, they take it personally, because I think there is a certain amount of sort of, I mean, trauma might be a strong word, but trauma associated with being ridiculed for being attached to this thing,
Yeah.
I think when someone changes something you love like that, it sends a message of that it was wrong before and you were wrong,
Yeah.
That's my that's my grand unified theory of why these kind of things happen. That's my psychoanalyzing.
So what I don't understand is when one like group of people is like mistreated or bullied or treated badly, that they like get into this mindset that no one else has ever been treated as badly as they have, or that there are other people being mistreated badly because of you, Like if you were a boy in the 80s and you loved Star Wars and everybody made fun of you about it, it's like, sorry, that really sucks. You should be able to like Star Wars. But then when a girl comes up to you and she's like, yeah, I got bullied for liking Star Wars too. Like, there should be a camaraderie. But instead, it's like you're not like me, fuck you, Like, I don't understand the, like, disconnect between, like that lack of empathy for other people who are, like, quite literally going through the exact same thing as you.
Right.
Like, I don't understand. I don't get it.
I think that's a different sort of discussion, because part of what defines a lot of nerd culture is its prominence of white male members. Because that was the demographic that a lot of these things appealed to originally.
Or were literally advertised to.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially with Star Wars. It's not that girl Star Wars fans never existed, because that's a fucking lie. It's just that, yeah, it was a boy things, and gender norms were a lot stricter back then than they are now. Exactly.
And the point of it is that, like, that is part of the thing for it. It's this thing that me and my guy friends like. And just like, taking the thing and changing it when you make a new thing, having people who are different from you come in and also start to like the thing is sort of changing the thing in your eyes in its own kind of way. It's not just for me anymore, because I feel like I deserve it, and I'm the person who was mistreated for liking it, so it belongs to me, and I deserve it more than you. And if you weren't a part of that original sect, then...
yeah, you don't get it.
Then you don't get it. Exactly. Yeah. That's... and yeah, I don't know. We could talk about this forever, but...
we could. We're going to.
There's almost a joke in this movie. What do you feel about when he runs into the automatic door?
Yeah, I almost laughed at that, and I'll tell you why I didn't. It's because his mother just had a stroke.
Exactly, yeah. And it's like, I don't know. It's a weird moment, because your knee-jerk reaction is like, that's funny. A guy just ran into a door. That's always funny. Yeah. I don't care who you are. That's funny.
I don't care who you are.
But then they just, like, play the dismount so fucking straight. And you're like, oh, okay.
Well, I do really like that of, like, even when he's not a clown, even when he's been fired, it's like he's still a clown. I just love how they play with it. Like, when they're talking to him and they're talking about the laugh thing, they're like, is that a real thing or is that a clown thing? And he goes, what the fuck do you think? But then he turns around and walks into a door. Like, it's good.
Right, yeah.
Like,
it's kind of good. Yeah, I get you.
How they, like, play with the idea that he's still a clown even if he's not a clown. And you see that in his mannerisms throughout the whole movie, and I really like it.
That he is sort of inherently just clownish as a person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like that take,
even when he's, like, running from the police, like, just the way that he runs is so clownish. It's so good.
Right. I love that shot when he gets on the bus, when he's sort of running away from the police. Oh, no, sorry. Wrong spot. When he's at the protest outside of the movie theater, where they're playing fucking Modern Times by Charlie Chaplin, like the most on-the-nose possible selection. This movie, much like the nose of a clown, is very on the nose.
Yes.
But there's that shot where, like, he is like surrounded by people in this clown makeup and clown masks, and he's kind of the only one who isn't, which I really like, sort of in my reading of the fact that he doesn't care that much. It's like all this stuff is because of him, but still in this crowd, he's the one who's choosing not to engage with it, you know? He's not a part of it. He doesn't have the clown makeup. He's not really engaging in this protest. He is only there for his own means because he knows that Thomas Wayne is inside, you know? So I really just, in terms of the visual metaphor of that, I really like it. I also noted that whenever he's fantasizing about Zazie Beetz in this movie, she never has her daughter with her.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
He doesn't think about the daughter ever again, because he presumably doesn't like that idea, doesn't like the responsibility of it, so he's just chosen to totally omit it from his fantasy world. And
I mean, I think, honestly, here's where my brain was throughout the film, thinking about their relationship. Like, it was like, yeah, he doesn't, well, after, like, realizing that it was a fantasy, I was like, yeah, because you later find out that he was severely abused as a child, and that's one of the reasons, the way that he is, why he's like that. And so, like, for me, it was like, oh, that's why there's so many children in this movie, but also why she specifically is not there, because I think... Yeah, I think what that's my first thought is that's why she's not there, is because he was abused as a child, and I think he kind of sees himself as a threat, maybe? I don't know. I'm saying this out loud. I don't know if I agree with it, but, like, you know, you see where I'm going?
But he doesn't trust himself with a kid, and I think he understands that.
He doesn't trust himself not to mess up a kid. And I think we see that with that first shot with him on the bus, like, making the kid laugh, and the mom immediately turns around. She's like, what the fuck are you doing with my kid? It's like he's like, oh, I'm a danger to children. I dropped a gun in a hospital. I shouldn't. Yeah, you know.
Right, yeah.
And then I was like, then I thought it was going to be like a circular thing. Basically, I thought when he got into their apartment, I thought he was going to freak out. And I thought he was going to hurt the little girl to kind of, like, continue the circle of abuse. That's what I thought was going to happen. And I was very happy that it didn't happen. So that's just where my brain was. Yeah. During that whole
I don't know.
Scene.
Honestly, I just kind of wish the Joker were more evil at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
I feel like you never really stop sympathizing with him, you know?
Yeah, I get that.
And I feel like I wish they would have included something that's, like, really explicitly like, oh, that was fucked up. Like, this guy is not a cool guy at all. I wish there would have been, because, you know, at the end he kills Murray, which is, like, real bad, but at the same time he was also, like, a part of this whole protest, you know,
this,
and
like,
it's
elite.
Like he's like making this grand gesture as, like, a figurehead, so it's not like a I mean, it is sort of, but in a way it's also not like a cold-blooded, like, evil, horrible thing to do. It's a radical and drastic and intense thing to do, and many people would find it really horrifying, but it still has,
but
like,
we saw all the steps that led to that moment.
Yeah. I feel like, and, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be him abusing a child, but, like, I feel like I wish there would have been a couple extra things that were just like, yo, he sucks. Like, he's not cool. Speaking of him being cool, though, I think it's really interesting the way that, like, the Joker look sort of affects the way that I interact with the movie as it's going on, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because once he gets the makeup on and he's wearing the suit and he very much looks like the Joker that I know with the green hair and everything, like, the way I feel about him when I look at him, like, totally changes. Because the whole rest of the movie is like, oh, he's so sad, and oh, it's life is so hard for him, and I want, you know, everything sucks, and I want it to be better. But then, like, as soon as he gets that outfit on, it's, like, that much more high energy, and you're less, like, downtrodden and like, oh, it's so sad for him, and it's more like, oh, this is cool, this is rad, I like this guy, he's cool. Well, like,
it's him literally taking action, even if that action beforehand is to kill himself. It's him actually doing something.
But I don't even necessarily think it has to do with him in the movie, because even moments where he gets excited and happy and energetic, like after he kills the Wall Street guys, when he's still just him, you're still carrying that
Yeah.
that imagery of seeing him the whole rest of the time. And when he puts on the Joker makeup, the imagery that you carry with you when you look at him is more like every other Joker you've seen, like Heath Ledger and like
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson, who are a lot more exciting and a lot more fun to watch on screen than Joaquin has been the whole rest of this movie, you know?
Yeah.
And because of those things that you're bringing with it, it totally like skews the viewing experience, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that just really goes to the power of character design.
Yeah.
And not to say that these guys invented the Joker, because they didn't, but the way that they choose to do the Maker joke.
Wow. Wow. Holy shit. That was incredible.
Shut up. I've been talking for an hour and 10 minutes. Leave me alone.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please keep talking
Did
about
I say
the
the
Maker
joke up?
You said so cleanly. You said the Maker joke up.
Am I dyslexic?
I don't think that's how that works.
Is there something wrong with me?
Sorry. Continue.
That's happened like 4 times on this podcast.
I mean, that's just something that happens to people every once in a while. That was just a spectacular one, though. I'm so glad we caught that on camera. You were talking about the power of character design, the way that they use the Joker makeup.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay.
Sorry. I just really like, it looks like it doesn't look, holy shit, sorry. It doesn't look like it's like affected by the Joker. It just looks like clown makeup, you know?
Right.
Like there's like, it isn't derivative of any other Joker that we've seen. It looks like clown makeup. And like we literally see where he gets the design from. He gets it from like the Party City clown mask.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think it's a really smart decision. And with his suit too, I love that suit so much.
Yeah.
Because they're all just really, it's just a really basic suit, but it's got all those weird colors together and it looks really good. Like it's
great.
got
like sort of a 70s vibe to it also.
Yeah,
it's the color
I
palette.
love it. It's super good. But
and
like talking about the power of character design, not only that, just how good the Joker design is in this. There is definitely something, like you definitely treat a character way different when they're wearing a mask and the makeup. Sorry, I just burped. You definitely treat a character differently when they're wearing a mask. And I know he's not wearing a mask, he's wearing makeup, but it has that same effect. It's like it's dehumanizing, but it somehow makes you relate to them more. And I don't really know how to word that, but it's the difference between seeing Peter Parker and seeing Spider-Man. Even though you have the understanding that that's the same person, it's completely separates them from whatever you thought they were before. That it just creates such a new version of that character that you kind of have a double think of, even though you know that this is the same dude that you've been watching the whole movie about. Now you've got 2 different characters in your head, even though they are very obviously the same character.
Right. And just speaking of, I've seen this sort of CinemaSins criticism going around that's just like, what's up with this suit? If he's this poor guy who just works as a clown, why would he have that nice of a suit just laying around? But I don't know. I think he's about to kill himself on TV. I'm sure he spent his rent money on a nice suit so he could do it in a cool way. Because he isn't planning on paying his rent this month.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, okay. I wish that he would have actually been Thomas Wayne's son.
I do too. I thought that was... I literally wrote it down as I was watching the film. I was like, having this connection between Bruce Wayne and the Joker is really fucking cool.
It's so tight, yeah.
And then they were like, actually, no. And I was like, well, that's... okay.
Yeah. But yeah, and on top of that, it really grosses me out that when they find out the story of his, like, abuse, it's that his mom's boyfriend, his mom's anonymous, nameless boyfriend, was the one who beat him, but somehow it's the mom's fault for not stopping it, I guess. Him. Yeah. That grosses me out. I don't like that one bit.
Yeah, I don't like how the movie handles the mom, because at first I really liked how they handled the mom. I liked the Joker's relationship with his mother, where it's like you could tell in that fantasy that he has about being on the show, you can tell that he is a little bit embarrassed about living with his mother,
Right.
but he also really cares about taking care of her, and I thought they had a really cool relationship. I don't, like, she's obviously mentally unwell, so much that she's convinced herself that this is Thomas Wayne's son.
Right.
But then, like, yeah, I don't like blaming her for what happened when she is obviously mentally ill in the first place, and then she's got an abusive boyfriend for just because nameless boyfriend abused Arthur, it definitely means that he probably abused her too, and it's just it's icky. I don't like it.
Yeah, and it sort of speaks to this whole fandom thing we're talking about, in which, like, people who are abused, often more so, if not equally so, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
As the people who are so upset about Star Wars, they suddenly become the person whose fault it is, you know?
Yeah.
And that is, like, I feel like that bit with the mom and the abuser and all that is just, it's so much like the worst possible decision.
Yeah.
Ever.
Because I feel like you could have, like, even with the way you set it up, where it's like, the Thomas Wayne isn't his dad. His dad is just he's adopted, and it was his boyfriend that abused him and his mom. Like, even if that was the conversation, I kind of would have liked it better if the Joker, like, used it to, like, relate to his mom and being like, you're just like me. Like, I would have liked that kind of interaction better. And I understand that the mom needs to die because he needs to have no ties left to his old life. Like, he doesn't need anything to worry about, or else he's not going to kill himself. Like, I get that. I get that she needs to die, but I don't like the way that they did it.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, and just, like, it just would have been so much cooler if it was like, oh, and turns out that the Joker and Batman were actually brothers this whole time. I'd be like,
and that's because that scene
tight.
between him and Bruce is so good. It's really good. Can I just say, I didn't need to watch the Bruce parents die. I didn't need that.
I know, it's so funny. Why are the pearls part of it now? I don't think that was ever a thing, but now for some reason.
Batman vs. Superman's fault, and that was already a bad movie. We didn't need...
Because I think Tim Burton did the pearls first, right?
Maybe? I don't know.
Hold on. Martha Wayne pearls. I'm going to see if anybody on the internet has done any scholarship on
knows what we're
the
talking
pearls.
About.
Okay, some forum post. Does every version of Batman's parents' death features Martha's pearl necklace falling apart? Give me just a second. Short answer is no. Let's see. Original comic version, no. Super Friends, no. Gotham Knight is a video game. I don't know why they're bringing it up so early. Batman show, no pearl.
Well, duh.
Well, they could have.
Gotham, never mind.
Right, I mean the animated show. Oh, okay. So, Dark Knight Returns did the pearls first, which makes sense because that's the biggest, most iconic Batman story ever.
Yeah. Okay.
So that makes sense. Dark Knight Returns had the pearls, and now it's just become a staple.
It's okay.
I think Tim Burton did it too. Okay, so that kind of makes sense.
Anyway.
It still cracks me up though that they always have to, even when it's not relevant at all, they have to go out of their way to add the pearls getting ripped off her mom's neck.
I liked it with which movie is it where Jack Nicholson is the Joker?
Batman, the Tim Burton one.
Is it just called Batman? What's the movie?
This is called Batman.
Okay, Batman. Okay, listen, there's 1,200 Batman movies, and they all have different names. Leave me alone. But
it's okay, you're fine. I'm just saying that you're a fake nerd girl.
Yeah, no, I am. So anyway, I really liked in Batman where they had the thing where it's like, it's the Joker that killed Batman's parents. It's like, okay, I like that. I like that you've established
I think that's stupid, but continue.
It creates a cool comparison between the characters. It has they have more of a relationship than just I'm the Joker and you're Batman. But I kind of wanted this movie to do that. And they do it in kind of like a weird way where they're like, Bruce Wayne's parents wouldn't have been murdered if it wasn't for the Joker. So he does it in kind of like an inadvertent way. Like just like some nameless goon. It just like sees them. He's like, oh, I'm going to kill Bruce Wayne's parents because I'm goon number 5 and I'm rioting. Mm-hmm. And it's, I don't know. Because they established that there could have been this relationship between Bruce Wayne and Arthur, I really would have liked it if Arthur just shot the parent. Like, that could have been the evil act. It's like, oh, he's evil now. Would have been shooting
you know what? You're
the
totally
Bruces
right.
in the
He should
alleyway.
have just shot him himself.
And then you do continue that cycle of abuse of children, because then you have
Right.
Bruce Wayne, who grows up to be Batman, which is just a basket case in itself.
Yeah, fuck,
that
you're
would've
so
been
right.
really
That would have
good.
been a million times better.
DC, call us. We'll
I
write
mean,
a
on the
Batman
one hand,
story.
though, I mean, thematically it would have been better, but on the other hand, I feel like if they did that, everyone would roll their eyes at it super hard.
I like that. I like when the Joker kills Bruce Wayne's parents. Because,
Right.
like, I like having there be more of a connection between Batman and Joker, rather than the fact that just one of them's evil and one of them's good. Like, I
Right.
like it when there's, like, a little bit more of, like, a history or relationship to it.
Yeah.
That being said, it can be really dumb sometimes, but it can be
Right.
not dumb if you don't do it dumb.
There's been
Which-
something of a fan theory going around that says that, like, this Joker isn't really the true Joker because he's like 40 years older than Batman is.
Yeah.
So then, like, when he grows up and becomes Batman, there will be someone else who uses this Joker as an inspiration to become, like, the real Joker, who's, like, a super
like
criminal. Which is, like, yeah, that's kind of cool. Except the bad thing about it is that now they're talking about doing a sequel to this movie, which just totally blows the whole point of it out of the water.
Yeah, the point of this movie was not that. You can... I don't know.
Because,
Listen,
like, the whole
DC
reason...
doesn't know what the fuck they're doing with their movies anymore,
Yeah.
so, like, I don't know, man.
Because,
We're
like,
at the
the
point in
whole
history where it
reason-
could be good. I don't know.
Yeah, but the whole reason they're doing something like this is
Yeah.
to, like, buck the trend. To, like,
Yeah.
be really explicit about doing something unique and deviating from the standard superhero blockbuster model.
Yeah.
You know, they're going so far out of their way to set themselves apart and be different. But then if you go and make a sequel to it
And then
2
make a
years
sequel.
later, it's like you're totally blowing it. I don't
Yeah.
know. I think that's so stupid they should not make a sequel. That's the worst idea ever. Except if they do, it'll probably be really good, and I'll be even more upset about the fact that it's actually
Yeah,
good.
that it's actually good, yep.
So, I mean, yeah, we're just at the point where he's given his speech, and I still feel like it's a little too, I don't know, partisan, for lack of a better word, you know?
Yeah.
I still
No,
wish he was less ingratiated with the riot.
Yeah. I mean, I still stand by what I said. I think he's definitely put pieces together since the last time we've heard him, like, talk about his beliefs. And I really like, I really like how blunt he is, because he's just, like, he's been so passive with everything that now when he's got, like, now that people see him and he has an audience, he's like, this is what I'm fucking upset about. Like, I really like that. And also
Right.
that line where he shoots the guy is really fucking good. And I'll die on this hill, Jackson.
Okay.
Just
Okay,
strike
fine.
me down. I will die on
I
this
will.
hill.
Like, I'm not, like, upset that you think that. It's just very funny that you think that, to me.
I just really like it. I don't know why.
You just felt it. No, it's okay.
I know. I just felt it. Like, it was, like, I sometimes I do like cliches. I think cliches could be used really well. Him just, like, having this, like, total one-liner and then shooting a guy on live television is just so good.
Right.
And, I mean, just the fact that what he says totally just, like, wraps up the whole film into a big bow is just, like, also so good. I don't know. I just really like it.
Right. I, personally, would have just ended the film with the TV screens. I would
Yeah,
have had-
I really thought that was going to be the final
Yeah,
cut.
which I think would have been best, because it would be like, and like
Yeah.
that music would play over the credits, and it'd be like, oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. So I think the riot scene is important because it shows that he's reveling in the chaos that he has created. I think that's
Right.
important. I think we don't need to see the Bruce Wayne parents die unless it's the Joker killing them.
Yeah.
I like the idea that he gets arrested and put in a mental asylum. I like that.
Really, I kind of hated that. I just thought it was too much information.
Well, I don't know. Well, because if they just left it at that, the implication is that, okay, and then, like, the Batman and Joker, like, him being a crime lord goes on. But this Joker doesn't seem like a crime lord Joker, you know?
Right.
Like, he doesn't seem like the kind of type to me to get a bunch of goons to steal a bunch of money, even if it's, because it's not the some people just want to watch the world burn Joker, it's the world is burning Joker, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like, it seemed out of character for him to be, like, a crime boss now, so I like that he's, like, just in prison again, and now he's like basically back into a system, and the system like just has to deal with him now.
Right.
Like, I don't know, I like that.
I don't know.
Is it too much information? Maybe, but I like it.
I think they should have just left it at the TV screens, and then we wouldn't have had to deal with any of it. Just be like, what happens now? Who's to say?
Who's to say? Question.
Probably he fights Batman. I don't know, though.
Maybe he punches a kid in the face. Who knows?
Right. Or if it were me, here's what I would do.
Okay.
I would have it end at the screens, but I would have one of the screens show him, like, some of the screens, maybe it could go on a little bit longer and it could give you a little bit extra information, right?
Yeah.
The screens would show the riots, and one of the screens, it wouldn't be obvious, but it would be an Easter egg for the real fans that shows the Joker, like, running away and killing Thomas and Martha Wayne. But it'd just be a small thing, and so people who see it, who notice it, would be like, oh, fuck, he killed Batman's parents, that's crazy! Well, but it wasn't, like, a whole big thing.
Well, I don't like, if he's gonna kill the Waynes, I think that has to be a moment that we focus on, because that's the evil act that's like, this is the Joker now.
Right.
So if we're doing if we're extending the television bit of him killing the Waynes, I would still want it to be like news footage of like the incident and people covering the incident. Like, I'm like going like farther into the future, maybe even establishing Batman if you really wanted to.
Right.
That might get too much into like setting up into sequel territory, but to just like follow like solely through the news, like what the news thinks is happening.
Right.
Like just like going through the end of the story, like whatever it is, just like going through the rest of it to like kind of tell us and then also kind of not tell us and then end the movie. I think that would be good.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just really stuck on the idea of having the "We'll be back in a minute" song playing over the credits. I think that's really good.
Yeah.
If it were just like...
It does
directed by Tom
feel
Phillips.
a little Monty Python. Just
right.
a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. Monty Python's good, though, so...
That's fine. Fuck it.
Although, I don't know. I guess I do have to say, of the very final scene, the fact that he implicitly kills that psychologist for no real reason, that's a pretty evil act that you could point at and say, like, oh, he sucks.
Yeah.
But it's not visceral, and it doesn't really feel... It's important, I guess.
And the fact that we also get the kind of comedic shot of him, like, Scooby-Doo running through the hallway after it, too.
Right.
Like, don't get me wrong. I love the shot of, like, him in the asylum wear in the all-white hallway, walking down the hallway with blood on his footprints. Like, that's super cool. Out of context, that's super cool. In context, I feel like it's kind of ineffective and really telling you anything.
Right.
Yeah.
I do like just the acting decision that when he's laughing, when he's talking to that psychologist, it's like a really genuine laugh. It's not his weird, like...
Yeah, like choking laugh.
Either compulsive or like when he's at the comedy club where it's just sort of this like...
Nervous
performative. Tick. Yeah. Because he's not like really laughing because he says so many times that he's never been happy in his whole life, which whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, presumably that informs when he's at the comedy club, he's just like, ha 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 ha! He's not, like, really laughing, but that's just him, you know, trying to blend in and perform the laugh emote. I don't know. Anyway, Han, like, do you want to know what IMDb trivia has to say about the Joker?
Oh, I really, like, this is the first time I really didn't want it to be trivia time.
There's only a couple.
I thought my clock was broken, and I was very happy about it.
Okay. I have three. One is very short. Did you know Penny's nickname for Arthur is Happy? Throughout the film, she refers to him as Happy, but he's absolutely miserable.
Wow, good one. Great job, guys. We did it. We can pack it up and go home.
Did you know that while rehearsing what he's going to do on Murray's talk show, Arthur thinks of doing a knock-knock joke and then pulling a gun out to shoot himself in the head? When he finally appears on the show, he tells a different joke to Murray, and instead of shooting himself in the head...
You don't have to finish the sentence.
No, I do.
Okay.
Instead of shooting himself in the head, he shoots Murray himself in the head.
Murray himself?
Murray himself in the head. That was the whole point of it, really. It was just that I liked that turn of phrase.
This isn't trivia. These are sentences written by people who watched the movie.
Did you know? Body count 8, possibly more off screen.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
for telling me that. Is it? I thought it was only 4. No, 5.
This person says 8.
Well, because you have the 3 clowns.
Or the 3 Wall Street
police-
guys. The 2
What?
police officers, let's presume they died. They said they were in intensive care, but let's say that they died.
You get the
The
one guy that
mom.
gets shot in the subway.
Does
and
the
you
guy
have
get shot
Clown
in the
Dude.
subway by the police?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So you got 3 Wall Street guys, 2
Yeah.
cops, the mom,
Yeah.
the
Okay.
friend, and the anonymous guy on the subway. That's 8.
You're right. Okay.
No, but also the parents. 10.
Oh yeah.
That
Oh,
should
I
be
don't
10.
think. No, I don't think they're counting the police officers because I don't think they technically died.
Okay, maybe. Okay,
So
maybe.
it would still be 8
Let's
if
say
you count Dwayne's.
I saw a video on YouTube the other day that was titled The Shining Body Count. And I was like, 1.
Yeah.
One guy gets killed in The Shining.
I mean,
This is a bad video.
You could talk about the hundreds of people that used to be there and died, but we're
Right.
talking about the movie. It's
Yeah,
it's
no.
1.
It's one person who dies.
Yeah.
The video was also 14 minutes long, which was really confusing.
It should have been 30 seconds long, and that would have been hilarious.
Yeah, exactly. 30 seconds, 15 seconds of a really dramatic intro, and then just be 1. Dick Halloran gets killed with an axe. One guy.
One guy.
Hey, thanks for watching. Please follow me on Twitter and Patreon.
Smash that bell.
Maybe I'll edit this out of the podcast because I might want to make that video. I would think that is very funny.
Okay. You're just going to make it? Okay, cool.
Anyway, do you want to hear a 5-star review of Joker?
I do want to hear a 5-star review of Joker.
This is a slightly
Please tell it
ineffective
to me.
bit because there already has been one 5-star review of Joker that was not Jerker. That's a different movie. Has anybody done a porn parody of Joker called Jerker yet?
No, because jerker is not a phrase that anyone has ever used.
Adeline, it's like jerking off. Do you get it?
No, I get it. I'm just saying that that's not a word that people
Okay,
use.
if you were going
Not
to
a
make a porn
title.
parody of the Joker, what would you call it?
The Joker, but his dick is out.
They don't even have sex. It's just
No, it's just a whole
re-
movie except
a recreation of a scene, but except that the guy's dick is out.
Yeah.
Anyway, as I was saying, there already was one famous 5-star review of the Joker that sort of just became a copy pasta that everybody knows. I'm not going to say that one, though. I'm going to say a different one.
Oh, I don't know that one, but okay.
Oh, it's the one where he says... Hold on. I'll read them both. Okay, so this is the big famous one. Where the guy says, "This film is my Black Panther. This movie empowered me. It helped me get over my rejection from the female known as Veronica, who'd rather date a Chad instead of a true gentleman who would treat her well. Amazing cinematography and a great performance from Joaquin Phoenix, who has fortunately moved on from artsy-fartsy hipster trash like her. Films like
Yep.
Joker are true art that often get misunderstood by filthy normies who watch the MCU kiddie movies instead of challenging, thought-provoking kino like Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice." It's definitely somebody who's making a joke, but that didn't stop it from becoming a meme very quickly.
Yeah, no, but that means he's achieved what he wanted to achieve.
Exactly. Anyway, here's my review. I was proud of finding this because it's great and it only had 2 likes on Letterboxd. This person says, "Holy shit, what a movie. When I came out of the theater, I was laughing with joy from how awesome the movie was. The woman at the ticket booth asked me, 'What's so funny?' I said to her, 'You wouldn't get it.'" Oh, it's so good. Oh, it gives me life. I love it so much.
He is the chosen one.
My favorite thing is that this review was posted 2 days ago, and he claims to have just walked out of seeing it in
Of a
theaters,
theater.
which is not the truth.
Oh, no, let's be completely clear. This did not happen.
This didn't happen.
This is made up. If you told me this was posted on the premiere date of Joker, I would tell you this did not
This
happen.
didn't happen. Anyway, my name's Jackson McMurray,
My name's Adeline McMurray.
and this has been No Nerds Allowed.
There are no nerds allowed. Fresh.
And now you got what you fucking deserved.
You get what you fucking knock.
Who's
Boom!
there?
I kill you.
Oh snap! That would have been better. What if Joker was just like knock knock, and Murray's like, "Who's there?" Pow! And just killed him right there.
Yep.
Just like didn't
Call
even do
us,
that whole
DC.
thing.
Call us.
Just kill him right away.